Have you ever thought about the software that stops your car from breaking down or keeps your food safe to eat? Well, it's called Quality Management Software, or QMS for short. And it's a massive, multi-billion-dollar industry that works like an invisible safety net for pretty much every product we use. Today, we're going to deconstruct a brand new report from the analyst firm Verdantix to figure out who's winning in this space and what's next for the safety of, well, everything.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the incredibly high stakes when quality goes wrong. Then, we'll get into what QMS actually is. After that, we're going to explore the huge shift towards AI that's completely reshaping the game. We'll map out the top players, and finally, we'll talk about why any of this should matter to you. All right, let's start with the consequences. Because quality isn't just some corporate buzzword you see on a poster. It has massive, real-world implications. And when it fails, the results can be really, really costly. And sometimes downright dangerous. And look, these aren't just made-up scenarios. The Verdantix report calls out some pretty big ones, like Coca-Cola having to recall over 70,000 cans because of metal contamination, or Nestle pulling 14 different batches of cereal over safety issues. These are not small mistakes. They are huge failures that cost a fortune, and more importantly, they completely shatter public trust. This is exactly the problem that QMS software was built to prevent. So that's the million-dollar question, right? If you're a giant global company with factories and suppliers all over the planet, how on earth do you make sure every single product is perfect every single time? How do you stop that one tiny faulty part from turning into a complete catastrophe? Well, the answer is a very specific kind of software, built for this exact purpose, quality management software. So let's actually define what that really means.
The official Verdantix definition calls it a digital tool for centralizing everything related to quality. But I want you to focus on those three key words: consistent workflows, data, and reporting. See, this isn't just a place to dump files. It's about creating one single, undeniable source of truth for quality across an entire global operation.
The easiest way to think about it is like a central command center for all things quality. It handles everything from managing regulatory paperwork and supplier audits to tracking employee training. The ultimate goal is super simple. Use data to spot problems before they become disasters and to get a handle on the insane complexity of a modern supply chain. But here's where things get really interesting. This market is not standing still. The single biggest trend that Verdantix found is a huge technological shift. QMS is changing in a fundamental way, and it is all being driven by one thing: artificial intelligence. This is honestly the best way to understand the change. For years, QMS was basically a digital filing cabinet. It was a boring but necessary place to store documents and check compliance boxes. But now, it's becoming an intelligent co-pilot, something that actively helps quality managers predict issues and make smarter, faster decisions. And just to be clear, we are talking about a huge market, a $10 billion market in 2024 alone. That number right there tells you just how critical this software has become for pretty much every industry out there. And it's not slowing down, not by a long shot. The market's projected to shoot up to $16.2 billion by 2030. That's over 60% growth. And what's fueling that? It's this exact technological shift we're talking about, especially the race to integrate AI. The report's data shows us exactly where all that money is going. When you ask quality leaders what their top priorities are, the answers are crystal clear: automating inspections and using predictive analytics. This is the proof. It's not about storing data anymore, it's about using that data to see into the future. And here's the kicker. Companies are absolutely putting their money where their mouth is. A whopping 77% of firms are increasing their spending on quality management. That signals a massive, industry-wide push to get these systems modernized and ready for the future.
Okay, so, in a market this big, this important, and this dynamic, who are the actual players? Who's winning? The core of the Verdantix report is its green quadrant, which is a really cool tool they use to map out the entire competitive landscape. Now, before I show you the results, here's a quick cheat sheet on how to read this thing. The vertical axis measures capabilities, basically, how good is their software today? The horizontal axis measures momentum, how strong is their strategy and growth for the future? This all creates 4 boxes: leaders, innovators, challengers, and specialists. And here it is, the 2025 Green Quadrant.
So the first thing that jumps out is just how crowded that top right leaders box is. I mean, it is packed with industrial giants like Siemens and Honeywell, right alongside some very focused players like Idegen. But then look at the top left, the innovators quadrant. It's empty. According to Verdantix, this points to a really mature market, one where the big, established players are the ones driving innovation, not a bunch of new startups.
So, to put a fine point on it, the report's summary names these 9 companies as the definitive market leaders. These are the vendors that Verdantix says have both the strongest products on the market right now and the best momentum for the future.
All right, so we've looked at a ton of data, market analysis, vendor maps, but what's the actual bottom line? Let's bring this all back to why it's so important.
It really boils down to 3 key things. First, making sure products are safe and reliable has totally transformed from a paper-pushing, compliance job into a seriously sophisticated technology problem. Second, AI isn't here to replace people, it's becoming that co-pilot, helping them see around corners and stop failures before they ever start. And finally, and this is probably the most important part, this software is the invisible layer of protection that directly impacts the safety of countless products you and I interact with every single day.
And that really leaves us with one last big question to think about. In a world that's becoming more and more automated, more complex, and more run by code, the very idea of quality is changing. This shift, from just reacting to problems to predicting them with AI, isn't just a software trend. It's a preview of how we're going to build a safer and more reliable world for everyone.